Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for real producers by real producers and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers, and of course, powered by Top Producers Nation. You can check us out at topproducersnation.com to learn more about how you can use our platform to become a top producer in your desired market as a real estate agent. So today, we get to hang out with Mr. Josh Green with Impact Realty. How are you, Josh?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Good to have you here. If Josh looks familiar at all, he was just recently featured as the rising star in our October issue of Tampa Bay Real Producers Magazine here in this local market. And it was an initial interview there to be able to get that content together. And I love the podcast because now I get to dive in even deeper, right? And get this story out there to hopefully even more of you who might not be receiving the monthly magazine here within this market. So Josh, why don't we start a little bit just with your background for people to get to know you a little. Did you grow up around here? If not, how you got yourself into Tampa Bay, and eventually how you got yourself interested in real estate?
Yeah, my story is pretty different for most real estate agents, right? So I had actually never been to Tampa Bay before moving here.
Okay.
We packed up, so it's me and my wife. We're from Salt Lake City, Utah, and we're big into real estate investing. And, it was around the COVID time where, we were being really worked a lot in our jobs as engineers, and
both your wife and you, both engineers.
We were, yeah.
Okay.
We were engineers in
Just
school.
Kick those mics out of the way, bro. It's all good.
And that's where we met, and we actually worked at the same company.
Okay.
And at that point, we were really looking into, different opportunities. And I said, hey, I'm looking at different jobs, and I'm looking at Salt Lake, and all the engineering jobs were kind of in the same bucket. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is the time we can expand our horizon. And on that same note, we can really accelerate our real estate investing because Salt Lake, Mountain West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been out there.
High.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
I was out there because I have a ownership stake in a solar company, and they have a headquarters. They used to have headquarters based out of Provo, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Out there. So yeah, I spent a little bit of time out there. It is gorgeous, but I remember when I was out there, it was like 15 degrees and cold and brick. It was pretty windy out there.
The winters really hit us deep, and we weren't big skiers, so I feel like we weren't necessarily utilizing all that Salt Lake had to offer.
Sure.
Beautiful place and everything. But ultimately, you have to really decide what you want most.
Yep.
And for us, financial freedom and that drive was the biggest thing.
Sure.
And we saw a slower time frame to achieve that in Salt Lake, and we looked around, and everything kind of pointed to Tampa Bay. We definitely wanted to live by the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted warm weather. We needed the real estate and investing options to be there. Miami was off the books for that reason, and Southern California also was off the books for that reason.
Yeah,
So
very different tax environment
it
too.
was.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember actually I was applying to jobs here as an engineer to, have something before just going full
Right.
time into real estate. And I was getting a lot of these interviews, getting really far, and it was just taking a while to get an answer. And I just remember some of my last interviews, I told the interviewer, regardless if you hire me or if I get a job, I am moving there this year, and I'll figure that out.
Right.
So, yeah, that's our
So the commitment was there.
It was.
What type of engineer were you?
I was biomedical, so
Okay.
I did medical devices. I could talk about that for a while, and my wife was a chemical engineer, but she also worked in the medical device industry.
Interesting. Very different than the real estate industry. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So to say your background was different than most agents is definitely true based on the interviews that I've had anyway here. So you got to Tampa, and your wife obviously had some faith in this plan as well because she had to quit her job, it sounds like, too, out there. So did she end up getting an engineering job herself here?
No, so rewinding back, this opportunity was really possible because we had made decisions before that allowed us to take a risk, right? We had purchased our second house hack at this point. And a house hack, really, it's something you live in, a home, and you can rent out part of it while, hopefully eliminating your living expense.
Sure.
So we had done that twice in Salt Lake. We had 2 properties there. We've always been experimenting with side hustles. Shay at the time was scaling up actually a resale business of clothing, high-end clothing. And she had been doing it, at every, spare minute of her time, and said, okay, I can quit and do this full time. And then you can continue engineering and or look into real estate now full time. So that's what we did. We quit our jobs, and, it's really scary for family members. Like, you have 2 mortgages.
Yeah, no doubt.
You've never been to Tampa Bay. You're quitting your
It's a big
jobs.
move.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And we did it. So.
And so when you got here to Tampa Bay, you doesn't look like you got a job with engineering. So you dove right in full-fledged, full-time to real estate right away?
A good question. I actually did get a job
Okay.
last minute, and they paid for the relocation, which is
Okay,
great.
nice.
So it was a little bit less of a risk, I guess. And we got settled in, and that relocation was going to be a 1-year commitment minimum.
Got it.
I'd have to pay it back. So I was working on my real estate license, and got it ultimately before I quit, and then hit that year mark and went straight into real estate investing.
Very cool.
Realty.
So what was the plan always to be a realtor or to be an investor, and then the realtor thing just kind of happened later?
It's a good question. I know I wanted the license. Shay had hers in Utah for our own purchases.
Yeah.
I didn't know for sure at that moment if I was going to just quit my engineering career. I had a master's degree.
Yeah.
I had a couple different roles, had a lot of different internships, and I was trying to figure out, what I'm going to do long term. And at this point, I had a job that, many engineers would want. I was upstream R&D, really interesting products. And yet I still felt like most of my strengths weren't being used. It just felt too slow. And ultimately, I just figured out I really had that entrepreneur spirit, and it was really hard to contain that to a point. It was like grinding teeth to the end to just get to the year mark so I could just go on my own and do my own business.
Once you got the itch, man, it's hard to get rid of it, huh?
It is, yeah.
You had the bug. You had the entrepreneurship bug. So it sounds like when you did get this real estate movement going, were you initially investing just for your own properties, and then eventually that bridge to connecting with other investors as well? Or again, was that always part of the initial strategy?
Good question. So when I had quit, this was 2022 summertime. I know I need income.
Yeah.
I can't just only invest in real estate with no income.
Right.
You need money.
Yep.
So I knew I was going to be a real estate agent, and if I know a lot about real estate investing, it's easy to help other people who need those problems solved too.
For sure. So in that first year, which I guess was 2022, right, that you got licensed, do you remember what that was like in terms of your early results? And was it more of a shock than you thought it was going to be, or did things go pretty quickly?
Good question. I mean, so I started in the summer, so it was really like about a 6-month run, and I was determined. I just quit a career in my salaried position. There was no such thing as failure. I had to make it happen. But I think it probably took at least 2 or 3 months before my first closing and transaction, other than my own on my own purchase. And I think I ended up that year.
Now, was that a closing as a agent?
As an agent, yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually, in that first 6 months, I did make more money than I would have in a
If you
whole
stayed
year
your
as a
job.
salary, you
Wow.
know? And I looked at that and I was like, wow, that was really awesome. And it's
Yeah.
really just starting. But I definitely put everything I could to get the ball rolling.
How did you get the ball rolling? Knowing nobody here, had no real network to dive into, right? So what worked for you to kind of get some momentum?
That's a really good question. I treated it like a business. One of the courses I took in my master's degree that was very important was all about making business plans.
Mm-hmm.
So I really identified, what are my skills? What are my interests? What are the value propositions I can bring? Who's the customer? How can I be better for them than anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Really crafting your business plan. Then figuring out, okay, well, where are those people?
Mm-hmm.
Who are those people? How do I find them? How do I get in front of them? I think it's so important in any business endeavor, sales, whatever it is, you have to identify what are your strengths? What are your value propositions? What's your pitch? Why you? And who are those customers? And then you got to find them. And then marketing is another big part. But a lot of people just skip to like the marketing and just expect like
without clarity on what they're
Yeah.
marketing for.
Yeah, and
It's smart.
you gotta kind of niche down too. You can't just say I can do anything and everything.
Totally.
You're jack of all trades but master of none is
Yep.
not a very successful way to go.
Such a great point, Josh. I can't tell you how many times I think agents who struggle in this business, it takes them a long time to figure that out, if they ever figure it out, right? And having that idea early of exactly who I want to serve, why it's important to me, why I want to serve them, and even having a list of reasons, I think that also helps too, just to go through the emotional challenges that we tend to have. That's a critical point. So what did that look like for you? Like what did your target market look like? Who did you identify as the niche that you wanted to serve?
Yeah, good. And right before I get into that answer, just for the audience, because I think people don't love just super general answers, right? So I did as much as I could. I did a lot of research, right? I called and interviewed other agents in the different states that I know and look up to that do high business, and I interviewed them. Try to figure out, what's making them successful. Kind of like listening to this podcast, you start to figure out, success leaves clues.
Yep.
What are those? What are the tips I can gain? Some of those tips aren't great for you, right? I had a agent tell me, well, he sold a business in the past, had a huge audience, and it kind of just was organic for him getting a lot of business. Was that helpful for me? Moving to Tampa Bay,
Not
knowing
really.
no one here?
Right.
Not at all, right?
Yeah.
But I could take other things from what he said.
Yep.
I asked so many questions. I had to educate myself on real estate transactions, of course, becoming an effective agent. I talked to my broker who had done it in different states multiple times in her career, and it just started divvying out time and even some money into different marketing funnels and running experiments, really seeing is this effective or not. And I'll tell you, yeah, a lot of them aren't effective.
Sure.
And I had to figure that out.
Yeah. So was it a lot of online funnels and investment ad campaigns, whether it's Facebook or other campaigns, just to kind of see what pulls, what attracts, and identify? That's after you've crafted your message, obviously. Is that kind of where you went to?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's two kind of people in real estate, and it's the old school knock a lot of doors, physical mailers, handwritten notes. That's great. That's like a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-few.
Yep.
And I was more about 1-to-many. I need to get in front of as many people as I can that are my target audience.
Yep.
And the good ones will come to me.
Totally.
So I liked attracting clients more than trying to chase after clients. That's
It's a lot of.
big thing.
It's very smart, man. I'm a big fan of. I don't know if you know who Dan Kennedy is, but he's a marketing guru, and he's written many books on this topic of like just how to position yourself by attracting your audience rather than constantly pursuing, right?
Yes.
And so that's exactly what you're talking about is how to do that effectively. So I asked you earlier, like, so what did you land on as your ideal market? What was the audience you were trying to attract?
Yeah, and you can expand as you get more efficient in your business. Any big business has multiple streams of income, multiple branches they
Totally.
can be very effective at. But for me, starting out, it was a natural progression of investing. So investors, that was my natural audience. I can build off from there. And even within the investor space, it's a very complex network. There's commercial residential, wholesaling. I mean, there's all kinds. So I had to really pick and choose. Naturally, house hacking was a big one. I've done it multiple times. So people who are just starting out and investing, that's a very effective path. And another one is short-term rentals.
Define again, I know you mentioned earlier, but for house hacking, for people who aren't familiar, that is when you're living in the property and you're also renting out a portion of the home to somebody else, ideally covering the mortgage. Is that the right definition?
Yeah, house hacking itself has so many different ways you can do it. Yeah. But the idea is I got to live somewhere. I want to build financial independence and wealth. I have low money down. I'm just starting out. So I can qualify with low money down loans if I'm a primary occupant.
Sure.
Right? Well, it's hard to get from property 1 to property 2 because of your debt to income ratio. Right. So it's important that first purchase brings in some income so you can jump to property 2. And so it can be a multifamily, it could be a single family with an ADU or mother-in-law apartment. It can even just be any property you can rent out room by room. It's just sacrificing some of your living space in a way.
A little bit of convenience maybe. And it's perfect again, like, I have 5 kids at home. So like in my mindset, it's just not plausible that I would be able to
definitely
with the size of my family. But in your situation, or anyone who doesn't have kids, even if whether they're single or even if they're newly married, I think it's a very smart way for somebody to get that momentum going, right? And as you said, make that initial house investment an actual income producing asset as well, rather than just hopefully an appreciating asset, but that's not generating cash flow.
Right.
So it's very smart. I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. So you identified that you wanted to work with investors. Now, were these investors, Josh, that were wanting to follow that same strategy of like house hacking? Maybe they were first-time investors, or were these more established investors that had a specific fix and flip approach or something else that you were trying to serve? What type of angle that you focused on?
Well, that funnel is definitely newer, first-time home buyers that also want to build wealth through real estate.
Got it.
So local, because they're going to own or occupy. In the endeavor of looking at house hacks here, and the prices were going up, and rents always lag behind pricing. Every solution kind of is born from a problem first. And the problem that I was identifying, and anybody could see in the market, is, man, it's harder and harder and harder to rent long-term rental and make money. Because a good house hack, you should be able to buy it, and in a short period of time, be able to move out of that, and it should sustain itself and bring money.
Right.
Fewer and fewer deals were doing that because prices and interest rates going up. And so you have to get more creative. You can either give up or try to figure other solutions out. And one of them was, short-term renting brings in more income. So that made me dive into a whole new realm of real estate investing that I didn't even picture before coming here, and saw such an opportunity here. Gathered a lot of research, did a lot of information, and realized what those numbers are and how you can produce good ones. And then it really took off from there, and that's the majority of clients that I've served, is bringing in cash flow through short-term rentals. And there's tax benefits that are very, very high for that as well.
Totally.
So it serves not only house hackers now, but people who are investing because they need money. And
and so they're not living in the property necessarily in all those cases, but and we've had a couple people we've brought on the show that have a similar business model as far as the short-term rental market, and serve that. Is that generally, Airbnb, VRBO, beach condos, or technically, I guess, anywhere? But is there a niche there that you've found that's worked well for you?
Yeah, I'd say my niche is the properties that produce the most income.
Sure.
So,
using
that's what I'm trying to do
for research and stuff.
All kinds of things. I used to use data analytics, but once you become a good operator in the space, own property in it, you realize how inaccurate these calculators are. And that's kind of the advantage that Tampa Bay has. So, for example, a lot of clients come to me and they say, I punched this property into AirDNA and it says this number. Well, if you're looking in Orlando at a condo and it's got 40 units and the same amenities, same location, all decked out, all the properties look similar, those numbers on AirDNA are going to be pretty accurate. You punch a property in here, especially
everything's
a house,
not cookie cutter.
It's a huge divide, and that's the opportunity. Is there's high performers and a lot of low performers here.
Yep.
And so you're getting this average number, which may or may not look good for you, but what people don't know is the high number
Yep.
and how to get there and how lucrative. And that kind of keeps the barrier to entry high and keeps people off. And I think that's why there's opportunity in this market versus a lot of big short-term rental markets are pretty saturated.
Yeah, I feel like there was a big energy, I guess you would say, or just a big rush into the short-term market a couple of years ago, right? I feel like that was a big push. Maybe that's media-driven or whatever, but there was a lot of chatter about it, right, out there. And have you seen that change at all over the last couple of years? Has there been a bit of an ebb and flow in the short-term market from your perspective?
I think generally, yes, investors, because it is harder to make numbers work, there's less investor activity. In my business, it's still very busy. But the reason why short-term rentals really blew up was because the problem was the lowest barrier to entry thing to do, which is long-term rentals, became harder and harder to do. So people started figuring out another way. Short-term renting. That's just how business flows. It finds its efficiencies.
Totally.
Right. And so
how do you deal with the uncertainties of like how towns can just change their policies where you have to have like 1 week minimum rentals now or 30-day minimum rentals now? Because a lot of these people in the short-term space, they want that flexibility of being able to keep renting every couple of days, right? If they want to. But a lot of these towns don't want that anymore, or seem like they're going more and more towards these more aggressive anti-short-term rental regulations, right? Have you seen that at all affect the business model? Or has that not really played a role?
Here, not so much. So the state of Florida has, back in like 2012, passed a law that really froze short-term rental change.
Okay.
So cities and municipalities that already had grandfathered in rules could keep those, but those who didn't can't change that. So that's a very important factor.
So no one's changed it since 2012?
Cities. So
towns can, or HOAs can, you're saying?
HOAs can.
I got you.
That's good point. So we don't buy HOA property.
I got
because HOAs can kind of make up their own rules with the vote of the people in the community.
Right.
So we avoid HOAs, and then we need to know the city laws. And yes, it is complex here in Tampa Bay, especially Pinellas County. But again, the higher the barrier to entry to any business, the better the opportunities. I see that as an opportunity. It discourages people from even trying, and those who know and really do their due diligence and understand the market and understand the values, they reap the reward.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense, Josh. That policy you just mentioned, you said cities, is that relate to towns as well?
Townships, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
But like, I mainly work in Pinellas County is a very strong performer. So for example,
like Reddington Beach would count as a city?
I believe now the beaches basically don't allow short-term renting.
Right.
Pretty much
all of them.
So we actually don't even, most of our property we buy and
more inland
isn't even beachfront. Remember, the beach idea is coming from a fear base of, oh, if I were to vacation, I'd want to be on the beach.
Right.
And the occupancy must be low if I'm not on the beach.
Right.
It's in the herd, wherever the herd goes, it saturates.
Right.
So the places on the beach that do allow short-term renting, yeah, you can short-term rent and make money, but maybe the minimum down payment you need to see those cash flow metrics is now 50% or more versus the most high income producing properties, you can maybe put down 20%.
Totally.
Right. So I'm all about the ROI, cash on cash return. And the beachfront properties, it's a different investor for those.
Totally.
It's a different horizon.
Maybe more of a lifestyle.
It can be emotional.
They
it
want
can
to
also
use
be a
the property
1031.
themselves for at least some of the year or whatever.
Appreciate.
The case may be.
It's a larger tax write. It's a more expensive property. So if you're selling with a $10 million net worth, you don't care about the difference of 4% cash on cash return.
Right.
You have plenty of money.
Right.
You want appreciating assets, and you want a big tax write-off.
Totally.
You want the most expensive, valuable piece of real estate that cash flows as possible. That's for them. People who are starting out or trying to grow, they don't have all these assets to 1031 exchange. They don't have a $5 million income to tax shelter. They're looking for cash flow, highest return.
Yep.
And those aren't beachfront.
What types of returns do you generally are seeing with the investors you're working with?
Good question. So obviously that number is not the same as it was.
Yeah.
And that's how any margin in investing goes. Over time, it's the margin decreases when you jump in. Right now, there's two buckets that work really well. If you want a complete hands-off experience, which we provide, which is going to be your lowest
I was going to ask you
return,
that. So you have your own kind of boutique
whole process
service that you offer. Okay.
Whole process.
Handling the concierge, all that stuff.
Yeah. So the higher returns are going to be 18 to 25% cash on cash returns. And then most people opt for the second bucket because it's a little less cash up front. That's going to be more like 10 to 15% cash on cash returns.
Okay.
So a lot of these investments we're buying right now with today's rates, today's prices, today's competition, today's outlook on the market, hands off, you have two buckets. One bucket, your entire investment is back in your pocket cash-wise within 6 to 7 years, not including appreciation, and refinancing your rate down, and any increases in inflation and rates on your Airbnb numbers. That does happen.
Yep.
And then the other bucket is like 3.5 to 4 years, which is super powerful.
What's been your experience on the investors that you serve? Is it pretty split on hands-on, hands-off approach, or do you find one is more heavily than the other?
Great question. Early on, I was getting a lot more hands-on DIY kind of customers. As I've done this more, my client base is definitely elevated, and I'm getting way more ratios of people who want hands-off. Right?
They're okay with the lesser returns because it's just free cash flow.
Hands-off. Yeah, they're busy people. They're business owners. They're doctors. They're attorneys. They almost invest in real estate mainly for tax benefits, and they're smart. They want a good return and build wealth, but they don't have the time to fly here, paint, spend 100 hours launching the property when we have those services set up. So.
Very cool. So your business model today, Josh, do you still, it seems like a lot of your business is still on the short-term rental side of things. Is that true?
Yeah, a big chunk of it, yeah.
Okay. And then what other parts are you also dabbling with? Are you dealing with long-term rentals as well? Do you deal with the commercial assets at all at this place? What other sort of classes do you serve?
Great question. So I still do a lot of long-term rentals, multifamily, house hacks, single-family investments, rehab projects, and short-term rentals.
Okay.
The short-term rentals, I just have more of those customers. And the returns are the highest on those.
Sure.
So that's where it is. I don't really work with flippers, and I could talk about that for a long time. I flip my own stuff. You know, I don't need a flipper, especially one that's, I'm going to finance everything from everyone else's money and do this. That's not a good client. Right.
So you still do some of your own flips, though, it sounds like, too, on the side.
More like buy and hold rehab, BRRRR.
Gotcha.
I like to buy and hold real estate. I don't sit here and sell it for capital gain.
And when on your own properties, are they short-term generally as well, or do you generally long-term them?
I still have long-term rentals that I bought previously, but everything we've been buying for the last several years, we've bought 4 short-term rental properties the last 3 years.
Yep. Very cool, man. So how do you go about attracting these investors generally? Are these people that are very out about the fact that they're wanting to work with agents like you and that's kind of what they're used to? Or are you finding just, doctors, as you said, who don't even have an agent yet that they're investing with, and you're kind of presenting the idea to them that this is an option for them to start putting money into?
I'd say 80% of my customers or clients are people who are specifically looking for the solutions I bring. And then maybe 20% aren't seeing that solution from whatever agent they're working with already. And so they are, willing to take on my services. And then my business...
After you educate them a little bit.
Yeah, it's easy to convert them, honestly.
Makes sense.
And early on, most of my customers were completely inorganic, through mainly online sources. It's like, where do these investors spend their time? Be involved, provide value, answer their questions, and then they reach out, or people see how you've helped someone else and they reach out.
Yep.
And now it's definitely way more on the organic side.
Referrals.
Way more. Yeah, because
once you show a couple good returns from investors, they have investor friends, right?
Yes, wealthy people know wealthy people.
Totally.
And so right now I'm pretty much all repeat and referral business.
Now, do you still also have like a traditional retail side at all of the business? Just somebody who wants to list a home?
Oh, absolutely.
Do they come to you as well, or is that part of your plan moving forward as well?
Yeah, So my wife's part of my real estate team. She's licensed as well. And everything we aim to do, we want to do it better. So when we created the packages for regular residential real estate, and I won't go over buyers right now, but for sellers, there's so much more to marketing your home. For example, I love to use the analogy of a yard sale. My wife and I, early on, we love to, budget and save money. We held several yard sales over the years when we were younger and married, and things we learned were when we just throw up yard signs, we have a small turnout, and we get less money from what we don't sell out.
Sure.
I market the property with signs earlier on the street, and I get more people, more sales, higher prices. And then when I market it in advance online, and I'm in a good area, and I have a nice presentation before, and I have pricing on the items, we put more work into the marketing, we completely sell out of everything at the yard sale. In fact, we have bidding wars.
Yep.
Same thing with real estate. Your job as an agent is to market the property to attract potential buyers. That's how you drive the price up for a seller. So gone are the days you can just take some photos, throw it on the MLS. And we know that. So we do digital ads, YouTube, website marketing. We have a website for every listing we create. Even the open house, the details, the marketing we do before the open house, social media presence we do while in the open house, the links. We try to find the buyer directly to save our sellers commission. And in fact, the few sales I've done recently, we were able to get the buyer directly.
Nice.
And it's all about retaining, where are the buyers looking at the property? They're either getting the agent to send it to them, or they're just a buyer scoping it out. How do we get them to find the property and contact us directly right away? We can retain that, and through digital tools like QR codes or going on our website, we have forms. We track that, and we can take someone who's looking at our property that we're selling. We have their information now. We can follow up with them, and they never even had the opportunity to go ask an agent to show it. They're all right in our bucket right away. So that's something we like to do for sellers.
A lot of your engineering background comes in with a lot of this stuff.
We love to use tools today, modern tools for modern problems.
Absolutely, man. It makes a lot of sense. And I think the strengths that you have displayed even in this conversation, going back to, like I said, your engineering background and how you have to be analytical about your decision-making and systematic on how you're going to improve things, obviously can improve any business, but it obviously applies to real estate, right, as well, and still putting in the proper systems that's not only going to be designed to generate new leads, but convert those leads at a high percentage for the maximum dollar amount. All of that obviously has flowed well for you. So it's cool to see how your business has grown. I think for people who might not know, last year, Josh did over about 20 million in volume, or about 40 transactions is what we saw as far as some of the numbers go. And it seems like you're on the rise, man. Things might, you have any excitement goals for the rest of this year going into next year? What are some things that get you excited about the future?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the biggest thing for me in my business is efficiency now. I have very high quality clients. I'm confident I'm best in class here for what we provide. Confident. It's less about how much business I need anymore. In fact, I'm okay with cutting my business down 20, 30%, because now time is absolutely the most valuable resource for me. So I'm focused more on conversion rate and quality of customer than I am, volume. So I rather, talk to 5 people and 4 of them are action takers and we close, then talk to 100 and close 8 of them.
For sure.
Totally. I just see a huge waste of time with the 92 that didn't, right?
The majority of your transactions, are they through your investors who just keep buying over and over, or do they, just as an example, the 40, say, transactions from the last year, how many different investors does that represent?
About 40.
Okay.
I've had
so maybe about one a year
yeah.
and then is that kind of an expectation that you would set with an investor, is maybe like one a year is the plan?
Most one a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes every 2 or 3, and then a couple people might be more than one a year.
Yeah.
So
depending on their cash flow and their financial capabilities, right?
Yeah, and I haven't done this long enough to really see much return yet on repeat business and referrals. It's really just starting now.
Yeah.
So most of them are new clients.
Got
most
it.
Of them, yeah.
Very cool, man. And that's where that funnel comes in, of you having those consistent lead flows coming in. I think that's where a lot of this growth can also come into in the years to come, is that repeat business kicking in, right?
Yeah.
Especially when investors get to see the fruit of that investment making progress. Dude, this is fun. I'm glad we had a chance to have you on the show, and I love these types of conversations. As you can tell, I get geeked out over investment conversations.
I love
too.
it. Yeah.
So I'll have to pick your brain a little bit more. Maybe have you back on sometime. For the few minutes we have left, I want to give the audience a little bit of your personal side too, for people to get to know you a little bit more. I know you mentioned that you're married, so Shay is now in your business, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Do you have kids or no?
Not yet.
Okay. You want some?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, that's
Big
the
part
fun
next
time.
year.
So you're working on it, and so what do you guys love to do for fun? What keeps you busy when you're not jamming in the investment real estate world?
Man, we're really simple people. I mean, we really enjoy progression. We put a lot into self-development and working on our businesses because we enjoy it. We really do, and that's why we've kind of accelerated at the pace we do, because we share that. You know, every meal is a business meal. We're talking about ideas. We're talking about growth. We're talking about goals. But for fun, you know, we love keeping our fitness up, you know, hitting the gym. I love playing pickup basketball.
Nice. You're a baller, huh?
Not so
hooper.
much. Yeah, I'm getting older, you know.
Did you say you live in Pinellas?
No, not anymore. We're up in Pasco County right now,
You are,
but
okay.
we're probably going to be moving back to Pinellas County next year.
Okay.
We love traveling, experiencing things, food. We love food. So,
Got a favorite type of food?
favorite kind? Oh man, that's tough. You know, lately I've been on a really like artisan pizza kick.
Okay.
Yeah, probably
I'm
from
a
all
fan
the
of that myself.
yeah, probably from all the Dave Portnoy, you know, pizza reviews.
There you go,
And
yeah.
now I'm like a pizza snob, you know. But
He always says one bite, but he never takes one.
no, that's the best part about it. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book, author, seminar that you feel like has made a huge impact on you personally or professionally?
Yeah, so I still remember I'm a very different person now than I was before moving to Tampa Bay, in a lot of better ways. My drive when I first graduated working was, man, I need to make money so I can quit working. I don't love working 40 hours a week. You know, I want to be retired. I want to do what I want.
Right.
That was the whole drive. And it was a very negative view. And I remember moving here during the 30-something hour drive. I listened to the audiobook of The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Very life-changing book for me. It changes your perspective of setting a goal, what can be accomplished, and the expectations to get there.
Yep.
A lot of people don't even set goals, don't have any idea how to get there. But the most important part is they underestimate and don't prepare the path to achieve that, because it is achievable.
Sure.
And in fact, you're probably thinking too small, but you're also acting way too little.
Yeah.
You need to 10x your action
Yep.
to get that result. So,
Yeah, I've listened to it as well. He's got a very inspiring tone to him, Grant does, and he has a lot of content out there. I think I saw something that he now posts more social media content than like anybody else on the internet, or some crazy stat like that.
You're in that constant
Battle for most content, right? So
Right.
he puts a lot of good stuff out there for sure. I love that.
There's a quote that really stuck to me. It put a sense of urgency to all this, because I think that's the biggest mistake I think people make from reaching success at some point is they don't have any timeline or sense of urgency. It's
Yep.
easy to just make an excuse to not take action.
Yep.
The quote was something like this, and I might butcher it. It was, "You will spend your whole life working to achieve someone else's goals, dreams, and aspirations, or you will work your life to achieve your own
Yep.
goals, dreams, and aspirations."
Yeah.
And I realized that, and it's like, man, you either create for you or you're creating for someone else,
Totally.
and you choose that.
Yeah, I've used that quote many times over the years with my sales teams. I had a mentor who shared that with me years ago, that you'll either work for yourself and chase your own goals, or you'll work for someone else and you'll complete their goals, right? And that was a driving factor for me to want to be an entrepreneur too, at a young age for sure. So as we put a bow here on the episode, Josh, and I appreciate you being here. So this is what I call the legacy question, right? So as you think about hopefully many, many years from now, you're a young guy and hopefully you'll have a whole flock of kids and be financially free if you're not already very soon. What do you think would mean the most to you when you look back and you're on that rocking chair one day and you're thinking about your legacy, right? What would you want to be most remembered for, personally or professionally, when that time comes?
That is such a hard question to answer. One thing that immediately comes to mind is I want to be able to raise my family, be very active in their life, and teach them everything that I know. You know, knowledge is wealth.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not achieving some form of success or income, there is two things: a knowledge gap and or an action gap.
Yeah.
That's it. That is it.
Yep.
And so for me, taking all this knowledge, which is what I appreciate the most the last few years, is the knowledge gain I've gotten. It's nothing to do with the money. Doesn't change my day-to-day life, really. We still live very below our means.
Mm-hmm.
It's the knowledge, and I crave that, and I want to share that. So when I look back, I want to see that I've been able to share to those who seek it. And you see that with a lot of successful people. They write their books, they have their podcasts, they leave clues, because it is the most gratifying thing is to give and allow someone else to reach that pedestal and or above you.
Totally.
Give them a better opportunity than you
Totally.
had. And that's just something I feel like, growing up, I wasn't given, business knowledge or anything like that. I love my parents and they've done so much for me in other ways, but it is a different mindset. The middle class mindset and the wealthy mindset's different in what they teach.
Very much so. Completely agree. I very similar story as yours there too. I love my mom and dad, but they weren't teaching me very much about investing or how to build wealth or even set up financial freedom necessarily. So I had to self-learn a lot of that through books and following various people. But Tony Robbins preaches a lot about the idea of applied knowledge is power. It really is applied knowledge is the key, as you said, taking action, not just learning something, which is why we end every one of these episodes with a challenge to the audience to take action, right? Do something from our conversation that is going to make the time that you invested in listening to this worth it. And that's the way we always put a bow on it, which I'm going to do in just a second here. So appreciate you being here today, Josh. If somebody wants to pick your brain a little bit more on anything we talked about today, or maybe even an investor out there who's like, dude, I like this kid. I think this is somebody I can make money with, and I want to invest in his strategies and the things that he's talking about, what's the best way for someone to contact you?
Yeah, my Instagram handle, which I was surprised was even available, Tampa.rei, real estate investing. Very easy to remember. You can message me on there. Our YouTube channel is Tampa REI. My email is josh@tamparei.com. Just reach out. And some of my best memories the last couple of years have been when I wake up to an email. It's 3 paragraphs long. Somebody from Boston or some other state sends me this whole thing about them and how they align with what we're doing. And then we get their goals achieved. In fact, sometimes as little as a week later, we're under contract on exactly what they wanted.
That's awesome.
And that's amazing to do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, it was great to have you here, Josh. Like I said, we'll have to have you back too as you keep growing your business and see how the journey goes. We're going to put a bow on the episode the way we always do, which is with that call to action. And there was a lot from our conversation today with Josh that you could apply, right? If you're somebody who might even just want to build your own portfolio, maybe you're an investor who needs to work with an educated agent like Josh on building your portfolio. Maybe you're a real estate agent out there who would like to add certain elements of what Josh does into your business model, right? You don't really have many investors that you serve, and that may or may not be the right niche for you. But if it is, and you think that this is a path, maybe it's a conversation with someone like Josh to pick his brain a little bit more on the lessons that he's learned. But what is one action step? It could be as simple as going ahead and picking up the 10X book, reading that or listening to it from Grant Cardone, but take action somewhere, right? What's one thing that you can do today that'll help propel you forward personally or professionally from the time you took in listening to the show today? If you don't, by the way, already subscribe to our podcast, click the button below. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode, which happens weekly with some top producers just like Josh Green, as you just heard from here today. We, of course, will see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. We'll see you then. Bye. Hey, real estate agent, stop scrolling and listen to this if you want to be able to grow your business. Are you struggling to grow your business right now and just hoping that you're going to become a top producer one day? Well, let us help you become a top producer today and make this the day that you do something about it. We have a couple different programs to help you become a top producer in your specific market. And what we call them are the 3 C's with a 4th C as another option for you. Let me help you identify the 3 C's. Number 1 is what we call our community platform. We have a community platform that allows you to be in a community with other top producers, people that you know are producing at top levels in different markets all over the country, sharing best resources, sharing ideas, and of course, as you know, proximity is power. So if you want to be a top producer, it starts with being in a community that allows you to learn from other top producers. The second C in that mix is our course. We have an online course built into our community, which has 82 lessons on it, all designed to help you become a top producer. Different strategies on lead flow generation, from optimizing your Google My Business, your Google LSA campaigns, how to build out VSLs, funnels, ways to be able to differentiate yourself and help you identify what we would call your USP, which is your unique selling proposition. This is all in this course to help you build it out. You can do it on your own time. There's no rush. You can take your time to do it. Or if you want, you can take advantage of our program, which is a done-for-you service to help you execute and implement everything in the course through our trained creative marketing assistants who are there to help you, hold your hand, and get things done to the next level. The 3rd C is our coaching opportunities. We have a weekly coaching call run by myself and other top producers in the nation, where I literally just moderate and interview and let these top producers teach their best practices, their secret sauce, so to speak. And you get to just ask them questions, Q&A. All different brokerages are represented. We're not pigeonholed to any one specific brokerage, so you're not just learning from one type of strategy, right? You get to hear from literally the best of the best in different brokerages all over the country, and we do those every single week as part of our coaching program. We also have the opportunity for individual coaching, one-on-one coaching opportunities where you can get assigned to somebody who is a top producer, be able to have weekly or bi-weekly one-on-one calls with those top producers to help you grow your business. And then the 4th C, which is an optional add-on for a lot of our packages, is basically the automated CRM. I hesitate to use the word CRM because really it's more of a business automation platform than it is just a traditional CRM. But I'm talking about a platform that will build out websites for you, will build out all your sales funnels, can manage every lead. You can upload your entire database into that. There's built-in AI automation to allow you to communicate so that somebody's working for you and it's not just you all the time having to manually communicate to all your leads. There's ways in there to build out lead flow campaigns to help you with open houses, geofencing strategies that are in there, and much, much more. When I'm telling you that's just the tip of the iceberg with this automation platform, I could talk about it for 20 minutes and it wouldn't do it justice. So ultimately, that's another option that we have for somebody who definitely feels like you need to up your game. On the organizational side, on the software side, we have some of that to help you as well. So that's our program in a nutshell. Let's talk about it a little bit more. All you got to do is click the link below, and you can either book a call, a discovery call with me or someone on my team to be able to dive in a little deeper to your situation, figure out your vision, figure out your goals, more importantly, figure out where you are and where you want to be, and we can help you identify how we can help you get there in this discovery call. Or you could just join the community as well by clicking the link below and get access to a lot of the things that I just talked about by just clicking the link below and getting started. So don't hesitate. Don't wait for another ad. Don't keep scrolling. Click the link and let's get started. I can't wait to help you in your journey of becoming a top producer. We'll see you there.